By the time I was 25, I was making over 100K. I had a team of like 10 people. All the things that on paper you're supposed to be successful, but I was actually miserable. People were like, do you host events? Like, what do you offer? And I was like, I don't even know what I offer. And after tweaking that messaging, I made my business skyrocketed in a way that it had never before. So I choose to let fear drive me. Like, I actually search for fear because I really believe when you are afraid and excited, that is your go sign from the universe.
So here we go. Hey creators, it's your hosts, Natalie and Yasmin, and you're listening to the Course Creation Podcast. We'll talk business, building digital empires, and how to create passive income to start living a life you love. We are here to empower those of you who are thinking of starting your own course and to support those who are already well on their way to success. We've built a 7-figure media agency on unique storytelling, and now we're here to share our story in the course creation world, and more importantly, to hear yours. We are committed to creating a space for learning and a space for diversity and inclusion. Now let's get the show started. 3, 2, 1, action. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us on today's episode. We have Natania Bravo on the show today. She is a business strategist for coaches, consultants, and healers. For the first part of her career, Natania lived bi-coastal between New York and LA while creating global brand marketing campaigns for Fortune 500 consumer brands, including Adidas, BMW, Coca-Cola, some of your favorite brands out there. While successful by society's terms, she knew she wasn't living up to her fullest potential. Tired of saying one day, she finally listened to that internal voice and leapt into the unknown. Leaving behind a successful career, she booked a one-way ticket to Paris to realize her potential and create her dream life. And then shortly after, Natania created the Bravo Life to inspire women around the world to realize and actualize their full potential. And now a global community of over 25,000 women, the Bravo Life provides coaching, online content, events, and international retreats for women worldwide who are committed to living their best lives as their best selves. Natania, thank you so much for joining us all the way from Paris today.
Yeah, thank you. And by the way, can I hire you to say my bio? You said that so well.
I'm glad I did it justice because it is so cool. I love the journey that you've been on. So we always like to throw it back at our guests. And in your own words, tell us about your journey and how you ended up in Paris. Because let me tell you, New York and LA, a lot of people dream to be there.
Yeah. So I always wanted to work in the entertainment industry. Like, I don't know if any of you watch The Hills. I don't know how old you guys are. Yes. But I was like obsessed with, I didn't know what these girls did, but I was like, they travel, they party with celebrities. Like, I want to do that. And so I knew I wanted to go into like entertainment and media and something around marketing and PR. And so I graduated, moved to New York, and very quickly moved up in that industry. And so I was working with media brands and consumer brands, creating brand marketing campaigns where everything from like Coachella, the Grammys, Oscars, it was tons of fun. And it was everything that MTV sold us. But it was also, after a while realizing kind of, is this really what I am here to do? Or is this just something that I'm good at and something that is kind of cool and fun? And so after being in it, probably I would say around 6 or 7 years in, and checking those boxes that society tells us is going to make us happy. Like, by the time I was 25, I was making over 100K. I had a team of like 10 people most of them were older than me, and like all the things that on paper you're supposed to be successful, but I was actually miserable. I was working 80 hours a week. That's not an exaggeration. I literally slept with my phone in my hand. I was always on call. I went to the airport probably every 4 days. Like, the TSA security agents knew me, like, hey, you're here again. And I had a lot of great experiences, but there was this lack of fulfillment of like, I know I'm meant to do more, but I don't know what that thing is. And I used to actually cringe at the words purpose and passion, which is hilarious that this is like my job now, helping others discover what that is for themselves. But I literally would cringe. I was like, how do you find your purpose? How do you like find your passion? And so after doing that, probably I stayed in the industry about 10 years, but probably around year 8, I had a breaking point where I was on the train in New York. And again, just because I was just work. Like, my identity was literally my career. And so I collapsed on the train one day, and I was already having like panic attacks and anxiety attacks and like all types of health issues because I was not eating. And, you know, when you're traveling and you're landing in one airport, going immediately to a meeting or an event, like you're just not taking care of yourself. And that was really my wake up call after having to go to the hospital and go to doctors and get tests and realizing, no, you're just actually just stressed. And like your body is like, no, stop. What are you doing? So I got a life coach and invested in figuring out who is Natanya without the title, without the money, without, you know, I bought a house by the time I was 26, all these things that we are told are going to bring us happiness. But I was literally crying every day and every night, and also more upset that I had a sense of guilt of I should be happy. And because I'm living this blessed life, but I'm not internally fulfilled at all. And so after doing some work with a life coach and really it really started with actually traveling alone and traveling abroad. And so that's kind of what leads me to how I ended up in Paris, is that I did for the first time a solo trip with no plan, no schedule. And it was like so freeing to just do whatever I wanted to do at any moment. I went to Paris, I went to Florence, I like did Airbnb experiences. I did all types of things like all by myself, where all these couples, when you're doing like group stuff, when you're on a trip, there were all these couples and I'm like, nope, just me, I'm here, like just doing it up. And after that trip, I realized that I had kind of suppressed this dream that I always said one day I want to move to Paris. But obviously life kind of took over and it was like, well, you can't move to Paris, Natanya. Like at this point I was a, you know, senior director level and I had bigger teams and I was managing bigger budgets and all the responsibility of things that, again, my work was my identity. So it was like, if I leave, like the company folds. That doesn't happen, by the way, in case anyone doesn't know that yet. But I really started to connect with a little by little, like what am I here for? And I actually went back to journal entries I'd made when I was younger, where I actually written when I was like 14, like I'm here to empower women and young girls to live their best lives and realize their potentials. I'd written out all these things, 14-year-old, who was I going to empower? But I kind of suppressed that, again, thinking that I didn't have anything to offer anyone. So I didn't know where to start. And so I was actually at dinner with a friend one day, and she said, what's something you've always wanted to do that you've never said out loud? Which is a question I recommend everyone asks your friends, yourself. And I said, I've always wanted to move to Paris. And she was like, oh my gosh, I just got goosebumps. Like, you have to do it. And 6 months later, I was on a one-way flight. Now, obviously, it didn't happen that simply, but that conversation sparked something in me where I was like, I can't do that. You're nuts. But I left that dinner like, wait, why can't I do that? And like all the excuses that we create for ourselves, which are really just excuses, started to fall one by one. And I also am a firm believer that once you take the first step, the universe provides the next and the next. And so areas where I was super comfortable started to become uncomfortable. Things that were working stopped working. And it kind of pushed me to make this decision. I was quitting a very healthy salary for like no dollars. I had this idea very loosely of the Bravo life. I didn't know the name. I didn't really know what it was going to be or what it was going to offer. So I was literally just quitting with, I'm just going to go and see. And that was 3 years ago. And I'm still here in Paris. Yeah.
Wow, what a story. It's like mind-blowing. And I feel like I just went through an Eat Life, what's that movie called?
Eat, Love, Pray.
Eat, Love, Pray journey with you. So thank you for sharing that with us. So 3 years, I mean, look at you now. I feel like 3 years, when we think about like business and turning your life around, is actually a really short period of time. You know, like it's like somebody will be like, I've been in business for 10 years, like Yasmin and I. And it's like, okay, 10 years, like where are you? So it's like, can you share with us what is the Bravo life and how quickly you were able to make this life change?
Yeah, so I probably about 3 months after just making the decision that I was actually going to move, I put in my notice to my job. I was literally on my bed one day and I was like, I want to create this thing to empower other women to do what I'm on the journey of doing, like finding yourself, giving something back to the world. I really honestly believe we're all here to be of service to other people in whatever way your creative gift is. And so while I hadn't really tapped into what is my gift, I knew I wanted to create something impactful. And so I was playing around with names, and luckily I have the last name Bravo, which everyone always like, that's such a cool name, you should use it. And so I was like, we're just going to go with the Bravo life, like thinking of, you know, your best life, the good life. And I remember creating the Instagram account and like lying on my bed, pushing publish and being like terrified, even though there was no followers, literally like 0 followers. But it was like the idea of like I'm actually going forward with this, because I think I knew once I started something, I'm going to have to see it through. And so after that, again, because I had a brand marketing background, my following grew really quickly, but I actually didn't know what I was offering anyone. I was just kind of sharing my own journey, sharing like personal development things that have helped me. But within 6 months, I had probably almost 10,000 followers, which is like insane. And people were like, do you host events? Like, what do you offer? And I was like, I don't even know what I offer. And so I kind of created my business backwards, in that I created this kind of platform, not really knowing what the end result was going to be. A lot of people kind of start with the end result and then try to build the platform, whereas I created the platform not knowing what the end result was going to be. But in doing that, I actually got a lot of market research, because people were telling me what they wanted to learn. How are you growing your social media? How did you quit your job and start this business? Do you do retreats? Do you do coaching? And so that gave me a lot of the market research that I needed to ultimately create the offerings that I do now.
That's really cool. And it's so funny. Well, it's not funny, but it's amazing that you said that you took this backwards approach, which is actually the correct and right approach. And time again, everybody who we're talking to, the experts in their disciplines, always say, launch whatever it is that you're selling before you even have a product to sell. And that's exactly what you did. And you took the time to listen to your people, your audience, and really hear out what it is that they're looking for, and then think to yourself, okay, here's my zone of genius, and here's what I can do, what I can craft based on my expertise, and package it together and actually deliver something that is valuable to my people. So that's incredible. I love that you shared that.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it definitely wasn't something where I started and I was like, I'm going to create a course, or I'm going to create, I knew I wanted to do like retreats and that sort of thing, but I had no idea how it was going to evolve. And yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me is the thing that I also teach my clients is it is very important to be clear on your story and how you want to show up, even if you don't know yet, like the package to offer. But I also share with them, having a bunch of followers does not equate to clients. Just because what I realized is that, because I was creating in the beginning, I was a bit more broad. Again, people kind of had a general sense of what I was talking about and what may be interesting, but just because I had 10,000 followers does not mean I had 10,000 potential clients, because they weren't all necessarily interested in how I was going to show up and what I wanted to offer. And so the other thing that I also do in reverse in my program is I teach my clients to really focus on what is your unique point of value, like what are you really bringing to the marketplace in a new way. There's nothing new any of us can create under the sun. It all exists, but you can always bring it in a way that only you can, because you have a unique set of stories, experiences, thoughts, ideas. And so really focusing on like creating your tribe and not worrying about like, oh, I've got to have 10,000 followers. Like people who, I got to have a logo, I have to have the perfect website, I have to have, and that's not true at all. Also, when I launched the first kind of offering in my business, it fell flat. And, you would think, oh, you've got all these followers, like you must have a full bank account. No, that did not happen at all. And that's another lesson in just really being specific on, who you're talking to in the marketplace, how you can help and really add value.
Let's go back to that very first launch. Let's talk about it. You said it fell flat. Can you describe it? What was it about it that didn't perform for you?
Yeah, so I was very broad initially in that I knew I wanted to help women, and specifically around like purpose and passion. And so I was kind of working with any woman that wanted to create some sort of business, regardless of what that business was. And because I knew I had the brand marketing background, I knew I could do it, but I also am really a big proponent of just because you're good at something does not mean you should create a business out of it. You want to find something you're actually passionate about as well. And because obviously there's a lot of noise on the internet, it becomes very hard to get your point of value heard if you are saying the same thing as everyone else. If people can't tell very quickly who are you and why should I care, like within 5 seconds, they're on to the next thing. And so I think just being very general and not really crafting it to specifically who it's for, like I'm a firm believer in knowing who your offer's not for is even more important than knowing who it's for. And so I didn't know that at the time. I was kind of just throwing darts at a wall, seeing what sticks. And it was good learning experiences because I learned what I need to tweak. And, you can always do things for other people a lot easier than you can do them for yourself. So having that moment of, okay, where am I kind of niching down in this area was really frustrating for me. And it's something I do very easy for everyone else, but it was like, I don't know, like, how do I find this? And exactly what both of you have stated, like really doing that market research and learning and asking the questions before you launch is so, so valuable.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, Natanya, let's go back. What was your, what was your first offering, or how has the business evolved, especially now? I know you hosted a lot of in-person retreats as well. They used to sell out, which is incredible, in different parts of the world. How has that changed over time, especially now during these unprecedented times? Have you transitioned to more of an online business? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I was actually doing both, meaning that so in 2018, I launched a 8-week course called Passion Times Purpose. And it was to take exactly what I was referring to, kind of entrepreneurs who wanted to go from an idea to how do I launch a business. So I did that as a beta launch, and I worked initially with about 10 women, and they got pretty good results. And, I got really great input and feedback, but I didn't feel like I was in my zone of genius. It was kind of like it was more work than it should be for something that I'm naturally good at. So I took that time to kind of like revamp and think about, okay, who is this for? And so I kind of niched down another level where I was like, okay, I really want to work with people who want to provide a service and help someone else. So in 2019, I did 3 launches of the same program with some content updates, kind of shifting it for the specific group of entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs, and probably took another 25 or so women through that program. And then in 2020, kind of the end of 2019, I was like, okay, I really have a lot of data now, and I'm really big on like, look at the results, analyze the data, like take out your emotions and your ego and all the other stuff that comes in it. And like, what is the data telling you? And the people that were getting the most results, and also who I was most lit up working with, were really exactly what you said in the beginning: coaches, consultants, and healers. So people that were really working with people in an impactful way to create powerful shifts. And so I relaunched the program under a new name, completely updated the content. And so that was in January, which was obviously right before all of this happened in 2020 with the pandemic. And in January, it was working, and that people were signing up, and I was like, okay, we're going to have this grow gradually over the course of the year. And between January and March, I pretty consistently had about 10 to 15 people a month signing up. And then end of March, it was like crickets, not happening, very similar to what you both said in your business. And I was like, uh-oh, what is happening? So it was like the longest period that I'd gone without a sale, and I started to panic, and I really analyzed the data and figured out I needed to tweak my messaging, because things are happening right now. There's fear happening. People are losing their jobs. People are experiencing really great hardships. We're in unprecedented times, exactly what you said. And so rather than avoid the elephant in the room, like address the elephant in the room. And so by tweaking my messaging and really niching, honing down and what to change, what a lot of people do, and this is what I find, when something's not working, they turn everything off and they try to fix all the things, as opposed to tweak one thing, see what shifts. Okay, that worked or didn't work, tweak something else. So I really just focused on the messaging. And after tweaking that messaging, I mean, my business has skyrocketed in a way that it had never before. So from March onwards, we've been rolling like 50 to 60 people a month. I think this month we're going to do probably double that, which is crazy to even think about. But yeah, it's been really amazing. And I think the most amazing thing is the community that we've created. The women are so, so supportive of one another. Seeing them, especially now, just in the last month, we've had probably at least 30 women get their first paying clients who joined the program less than 90 days ago with just an idea, literally not a business at all. And so to see that evolution, especially right now when people are having concerns about finances and how am I going to support my family and stability, is really incredible. And they inspire me, honestly, so much, just to see women who are like going after their dreams and like, I'm going to go for, and the way that we all like cheerlead each other is really incredible. So that's kind of like the core side of my business. The retreat side of my business, I did 3 retreats last year, which were incredible. We had about 12 to 15 women each, and we were supposed to do Tuscany, Italy in May, which obviously could not happen. So that's being postponed. We'll see probably next year, depends how things go. But yeah, I obviously I love in-person events because while the internet's great, I miss that human connection. Like I'm very big. I talk to every single person that joins my program. We have a call. Like I want to know you beyond just, you know, your name on a screen. And so I really do love in-person events, but obviously right now we want to keep everyone safe. So until we can do that, we try to find ways to really surprise and delight everyone that comes in the program and really have that personal touch beyond just a stranger on the internet.
Okay, you have to tell us what that one tweak was. I'm dying to know.
Yeah, so my, everyone kind of, you know, obviously sells their course differently. I use a webinar. And so my webinar is really what is my sales machine. And so honestly, it was just tweaking in my webinar to literally talk about, so I think one, it's discovering what is the problem that you solve. Whatever course you have, you need to be solving a problem. People pay to solve the problem. They don't pay for the solution. So we need to meet people where they are. You may see their problem as something else, but whatever they see their problem is what they're going to invest time, money, and energy in. And so meeting people where they are meant understanding what are people's fears right now. Why would this be or not be beneficial for someone? Who is this for or not for? And really honing into that, into what I was talking about, which obviously before COVID and the pandemic, you know, I wasn't necessarily talking about the fact that people are potentially, you know, worried about stability in their jobs, because that wasn't so much the case. Whereas right now it is the case. So let's address that right now and talk to how can this program, if it is the right fit for someone, be beneficial for that. I also offered extended payment plans because, again, not everyone can afford to make that upfront investment, but I don't believe finances should be a barrier for someone that's ready to take action and do the work. And so if, you know, having an extended payment plan means that you get that opportunity to really make that step that you want to make, great. Like I would love to have you in this program. And so just finding ways to overcome those barriers or potential objections specific to what's going on right now.
Beautiful. Do you find that now, you know, we're several months into the pandemic, things are changing a little bit, parts of the world have opened up, some people have gone to work. Have you had to tweak that messaging, or are you still talking to those people who have those barriers?
Yeah, it's been the same. I haven't, and so right now I actually do an evergreen webinar, meaning that, and sometimes I do lives as well, but a lot of times it's an evergreen webinar. So it hasn't changed much in terms of the messaging. Obviously, you know, with the Black Lives Matter movement, there was also additional messaging. So just being cognizant of what's going on, what are people thinking about right now? Like people have lives and families and fears and thoughts and dreams, and really speaking to what's going on for them and connecting with them in that way. Even if, you know, I'm talking to a screen, I don't see them, I want them to feel like seen and heard.
Amazing. Amazing. So let's dive a little bit deeper into, you kind of touched on it already, but like the evergreen funnels and selling through a webinar. Why did you choose to use the webinar model as your, I'm going to call it a sales funnel, because it is, right?
Yeah, definitely. So I did, again, a lot of research and looked at all the different ways that other people were selling their courses online. And I knew email was estimated at like 2 to 3% conversion rate. And I also knew I had a high ticket offer, meaning over $1,000. So I knew that just posting on Instagram to a stranger wasn't going to get them to be like, oh yeah, I'm in. Like you need to actually communicate the value and how this potentially helped the person and answer any questions they have specific to their situation. And so I looked into webinars and saw that you could have, you know, anywhere on average 10 to 25, some people even have higher percent conversion rate on a live webinar. And I was like, oh, I can do this. And especially, you know, I really like people, I want the right people in the program. So I would never want someone to just read a sales page and join and it not be the right fit for them. I want them to have a sense of kind of the why behind it, why I even created this program. Like every woman in the program right now yes, we all want to make money, but they are more importantly wanting to make an impact. And I really want to guard that energy and that space, which I'm able to do on a webinar where I can talk about my story, my why for doing this work, because yes, we all have bills, we all have things that we have to pay for, but I really want to help people and empower people to create whatever their best life looks like. And so that's my why. And I want to know what your why is. And so having that live interaction on a webinar where someone can get to know me a little bit more on a personal level beyond just the technical aspects of the program, I think one allows for a higher conversion rate, but also allows for me to have that connection before they even enter the program. Yeah. I would say Evergreen Funnel allows you to scale, meaning that I can bring more people. So live launching, I did it last year, like I said, 3 times. And for me, it just is exhausting. Some people love it and it's great. And they can pretty much calculate how much they're going to bring in each month. And that's amazing. But I think I don't know if you guys are doing a live launch right now, but if you are, there's so much that goes into like a 3-week or 1-month period where at the end of it, I was exhausted and depleted. And it was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. That's just not the way that I run my business. For some people that works and they're like, I'm okay committing, 3 weeks, 3 or 4 times a year, and doing an open close program. Whereas that one wasn't the way I wanted to run my business. The other part of it was that I also see the value in having an evergreen program where there are people at different stages in the program that they are able to support and inspire each other in different ways. So someone that just joined can see someone that joined maybe 3 months ago when it was open. And so that really helps. Just the energy in the group is different because they're able to give different perspectives and they even like coach each other, which is really cool to see. So yeah, that's really what led me to an evergreen and just having more free time, but also still being able to reach people who do have a need or want or desire to kind of learn how to grow and create their own business for themselves.
Mm-hmm. And so Natanya, for after the webinar, what's the nurture cycle look like beyond that? So meaning, obviously you have a community, and as you just mentioned, a lot of people who are already in the course at different phases of their journey. They're able to coach others, they're able to inspire others, empower others, and really it's incredible to have that community already built. But beyond that, what does that nurture cycle of someone who's like on the fence after the webinar, what do you do next?
Yeah, so we reach out to everyone that watches the webinar, and I will personally invite them to a clarity call so we can chat for 30 minutes, answer any questions they had. And that typically for people who maybe were on the fence or they really want to join, but maybe they need a few more days, that is a great opportunity, one, for me to learn a little bit about them and make sure they are a right fit. I will happily tell someone like, actually, this program probably isn't right for you. Like maybe here's some other ones you can check out. So that's been really great. And also people are super surprised that I will get on the phone with them for free. They're like, you're going to talk to me? Like, really? And I think that just, again, is another like personal touch of like, let's break down the internet barrier, because that's a way for me to connect with someone one-on-one, address any questions they have, concerns they have. And then in addition, we are sending emails to help them understand how specifically this can help them. So giving them examples of different types of entrepreneurs who have joined the program, what their results were like, what they got out of the program, not just client-wise, like money-wise, but also just mindset-wise, the personal growth-wise. So that's really helpful is being, not pushy. I'm a big component for webinars. I believe that someone should already be a yes by the time they get to your offer portion on the webinar. And so my emails and follow-up are not to sell you. It is really just to answer any lingering questions that you have, because at least for me personally, I will say most people will tell me, I already decided I wanted to work with you. It's just a matter of, is this the right program for me? Is this the right time? Can I afford this? Those types of things. So I really do the selling on the webinar before I even talk about the program, where I talk specifically about the value that this can, learning these different things can help, what mistakes they're maybe making, really speaking to their current pain points, what's possible for them on the other side of those. So that's, again, really speaking to who are you and how can you help me? That's what people want to know. So that by the time they get to your offer, it's no longer do I want to work with this person? It's really just making an educated decision of, is this the right time? Is this the offer? Does it meet the needs of specifically what I need? But you should already have trust in what the person is offering in terms of the value add that person could potentially bring to you. Yeah. Yeah, I'm still not. Is the short answer to that. So I'm an introvert by nature. And so if you would have told me that I would be doing this, I would say you're absolutely nuts, not in a million years. But I think it is really showing up authentically as you. I think a lot of times people try to put on this voice, and I did it early on, where you try to change your voice and become, the scripted script of, maybe you're seeing someone else's webinar, they're like, they did this, so I'm going to say this word too, because that sounds good. And honestly, my sales conversion went up the second I let all that go. And I was just like, this is me. You can like it, you can not like it, but here I am. So really finding your true voice and being authentic to you, and not doing that weird thing that we all start doing when we start selling, where you start to change your voice and you become this salesman person. just authentically showing up. And that's why I think it goes back to being really clear on what is your why behind why you do the work that you want to do. I think people, especially right now, are craving authenticity, and they can see through fake and fluff very quickly. And so if you are very surface level, even with what your offer provides or how you're presenting your offer, it's not going to stick, because there is so much noise and competition online. So if they've got 10 options, people are going to not just, I'm not the only business coach on the internet. Everyone knows that by Facebook ad targeting, right? I'm also not the only person that is teaching the strategies that I teach, how to discover your niche, how to craft an offer, how to launch an offer. The reason why people choose to work with me, and they tell me this when they join, is that they saw something in me that reminded them of themselves. Not that we have the same story, not that we have the same goals, but something about the way that I shared my journey, my story resonated with them, and had them see, oh, if she can do this, I can do this. Or, oh my gosh, even I share on the webinar, I'm an introvert and I'm very uncomfortable on camera. I say that, and that resonates. Oh my gosh, I'm an introvert too. And then it's oh, if she can do this, maybe one day I could do that, right? And that's similar to me. I've obviously been inspired by people myself, and just seeing people that you resonate with and have a similar story or similar personality quirks or things about them is the reason why I think, especially right now, people are going to choose to invest with one over the other. There's tons of options for everything. And so what's going to set you apart is you, not some perfect funnel or strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It also makes it so much easier, because then you stay consistent when you're yourself, because you don't have to consistently, shift gears, try to figure things out. Is this working? Is this not working? Just being yourself is key. And a lot of what you said resonates with me too. I feel like I'm a extroverted introvert. It's really weird. I'm like a social butterfly and I get out there, but I love being an introvert, and I just do so well in my introverted ways too. And it's so interesting now being in front of the camera again, when all this time for the past 10 years we've been coaching our clients and other people to be on camera. So it's a complete mind shift. And again, going back to the place of I just need to be me, and I have a story, and I have to have my voice be heard. So that's really amazing that you shared that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to go back to goals and setting goals, because I think that we always talk about taking these massive imperfect actions, and it always starts off with that one little action that really sets things off. And earlier you mentioned that you had your Instagram profile and you were so afraid to hit publish, and that was the moment where you're like, if I send this out there in the world, then that's official. Like, I have to make it. And that's a decision you made. Now, you did make a decision to move across the world too. So that was a big decision on its own. And a lot of people have fears that holds them back from even the smaller steps. Wow. What would you share with our listeners who know they have something to offer and they have great ideas, but just don't know where to start and are just so afraid to even take that small imperfect action?
Yeah, so I think what led me to take the both small and big imperfect actions was the fear of wondering what if was greater than the fear of failing, because I pictured myself 10 years from now not having done it and always having that, what if I moved to Paris? What if I would have pushed publish on that Instagram profile? And so I choose to let fear drive me. Like, I actually search for fear because I really believe when you are afraid and excited, that is your go sign from the universe. Anything that terrifies you and excites you, go. Do it. Like, that's the green light. And so now I'm obviously able to trust that a little bit more because I've done it a few times. But early on, I think what I let drive me was the fear of wondering what if, and also, like, you can always go back and do whatever you were doing before. I promise whatever you're doing now isn't going to go away. So it was like, I can always go back and get another job. I can always move back to America. I can't always quit my job and move to Paris. So what am I waiting for? It's amazing. So I never thought I would be here this long, that's for sure. It's been an amazing experience. I did not speak the language. I didn't know anyone at all. And I moved here, and not only did my business change, but I also, 3 weeks after moving here, met my now fiance. Like, my entire life changed. And that's what I talked about when I said making that first step opens up all these other steps that you can't even imagine right now. And so now obviously it's a lot easier for me to make those steps. I'm like, what's going to be after that? What's going to be next? But yeah, it's been an amazing experience to learn the culture, to learn the language. I'm actually should be moving back to America right now, but obviously with everything going on, I'm going to delay that a bit. But yeah, it's the best decision I've ever made in my life by far. Way too many croissants and way too many desserts, but yeah.
Ooh, croissants, you just made my mouth water. I want one so bad. Yeah. Very cool. So in terms of goal setting and what the next 5 years are going to look like, how important is it to have an idea of where you want to take it, to sort of project where you want to be in order to take sort of the next steps of?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of like long-term goal versus short-term goal. And a lot of people look at long-term goal as like kind of what you said, 5 years, 10 years, whatever. I actually look at long-term goal as like 6 to 12 months, because a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll say, I want to make 6 figures next year. And then it's like, okay, but what is your short-term goal that's going to actually get you there? I mean, what are you doing in the next 30 days that's going to bring you one step closer to next year having a 6 figure? So I map out, like, I already know how many people I want to enroll over the next year. And then what are my actions that I'm taking in the next 30 days to ultimately take those little steps that are going to bring me there. Not that in the next 30 days, I'm trying to meet my year goal, but what are you doing today? And so it's similar to what I tell a lot of the women in my program, is that they'll say, I just want to have like my first 10 clients. And it's like, okay, but what do you have to do to get your first 10 clients? You have to get your first client. So what are we doing to get client 1 today? And so I really like to focus on both short and long term. I can't say, I used to map out my life where I literally from like 13 onwards had written out every year of my life until like 30 years old. And just because I'm like a very OCD planner, I don't do that as much anymore, just because I think over the last 3 years, having seen how many things happen that there's no way I could have planned, it's just like, I'm not even going to waste my time, because there's people I don't know yet. There's ideas I don't have yet that are going to shift and change. I think it's nice to have an overall vision of where you want to go in the, 3, 5, 10 year, but I'm more focused on like, okay, what does my next year look like? What does my next, 2 years maybe look like? Knowing that I'm going to evolve and change over that time. So those goals may change over that time. So yeah, that's how I like to look at goals for sure. Yeah. So I did a lot. So before I could, now I heavily invest in Facebook ads. It's a lot of the way that my traffic comes into my webinar and funnel, but I obviously didn't have that money early on. And so I did a lot of organic connecting with people where every time someone would follow me, someone would comment on me, and I still do this. I DM them, I send a voice note. I'm like, hey, how are you? Like, I want to get to know that person. And then I did have a freebie, a kind of mini course. So that was a 7-day mini course. So people were funneling into that. That was probably my first ever freebie, if I'm remembering correctly. Yes. And so that was my initial way of growing my list. And then once I started doing webinars, especially in launch, that's a lot of that became my freebie. And so a lot of people are like, what's the perfect freebie or what's the perfect platform? I don't believe there's any like one way to do something. People are having success on LinkedIn as much as they're having them on Instagram. People are having success via a webinar, via a PDF, via whatever way, but how do you show up best, right? It's not about what's working for someone else, but how are you able to share your gift in the way that feels aligned with you, that shows if you're really great on video, share a video, like whatever is going to capture someone's attention and ultimately create interest and desire so that you can ultimately get them into your paid offer. But you can't do that until you capture attention, create interest and desire. I think a lot of people immediately go to like buy my offer. That doesn't work. You have to capture attention, create interest and desire. And for the people that it's for, then they're going to be ready and excited for your offer. For people that it's not, they're going to fall off, and that's okay, because I'm very big on like the 2% of people that want and need what I have to offer, and blinders on for everything else.
Yeah, that's great. I want to just touch up on one thing. I know we all know the agency life is wild and you work a lot of hours, and it's not just agency life, you know, in our creative or in the media industry, it's also in other fields, a lot of people work a lot of hours. Now, being an entrepreneur does not mean all the freedom of time either, because we have to work hard. We have to work sometimes really long hours. I think it's just different when you perhaps are doing something that you're passionate about versus like working for somebody else. But I want to know, how much time are you spending on your business now? Do you have more freedom of time, or what does that look like for you?
Yeah, it's funny you ask that, because I'm in the midst of, so as I mentioned, the last 3 months have been like rapid fire growth. And so I'm like expanding the team for exactly that. So I have blocked off Fridays of like my CEO day to like, if I want to ideate, if I want to map out things, I don't take calls. If I don't want to work, I don't work. So that's like my day. Monday is like my creation day, where I'm going to create any content I need to and that sort of thing. And then Tuesday and Thursday are my client days, any kind of one-on-one client calls. And Wednesday are kind of new members in the community, where I'm connecting with them and doing welcome calls and that sort of thing. So that's kind of how I break up my time. Now, that being said, I feel like people, I work, when I say less, I mean not as hard as I used to in my old career, because I'm actually doing something maybe that I love and I'm passionate about, so it doesn't feel like work most of the time. I know that sounds very cliche to say, but it is true. But I do, I have a business that's running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it's not like Saturday, if something happens, I can just be like, oh, I'll look at it on Monday. Like, no, sometimes that's going to require some attention. So I'm in the process of continuously growing the team and bringing people into the positions to have more support, and also free up more of my time to be able to forward think for the company. So that's really important to look at just as you grow. I think the first thing most people hire is a VA, and that was like the best decision I ever made last year. And then at the next point, you're going to need something else. And so really evaluating where also your blind spots and where are you being the bottleneck, which can also add to just more time for you as well as anyone else that you're working with in your business, whether they're contractors, employees, doesn't matter. You created this life to have some freedom, and so you don't want to be glued to your phone like a maniac, but it is your baby, right? And so you're always going to have a sense of, you want to know what's going on, you want to stay connected, but I think it's really important to disconnect as well. So I know I didn't really answer your question. I'm like still working on that balance, but I'm much happier than I ever was before. So while I can't say I work a standard 9 to 5, 40-hour week, and I don't know how many hours I do work, so I don't really track it, but I feel that I have a healthy balance of, I have freedom to, if I want to go away for a week, I can, and maybe I'll work an hour, a couple hours a day while I'm away, but I'm not glued to any one place. I'm not glued to any one time. I'm also a little bit in a special situation in that I'm in Paris and all of my clients are in America and Canada. So time zone difference is also attributes to my working hours. So I thankfully have my mornings free and I get to kind of sleep in because I'm not a morning person. So that's nice.
That's awesome. You answered it beautifully. And one thing that really stood out to me was your organization of time that really attributes to productivity. I love the way you even walked us through how your days are set up, where you focus on, just client facing stuff like on a Wednesday, and then you are just focused on creativity and whatever it is that you're creating on a Monday. So I really love that because I think that a lot of times we get overwhelmed and there's so many things on our to-do list and we're just checking things off, but it's like, how can we be the most productive selves we can be? It's nice to have those time blocks. So I really appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, it's changed my life. I was doing exactly that, where you're just doing all the things at once and you end up actually just running in place doing nothing. So Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, so we actually start the program really not focusing on anything to do with strategy or even their offer, but focusing on them and their unique stories, their unique POVs. So I have them, I believe that we all have pivotal moments on our journeys where we went left instead of right when we made certain decisions. And that has led you to the person that you are today. And if you're wanting to create a course, a coaching business, whatever it is that is offering value to someone else, you didn't just randomly wake up with like, there's someone in my course right now who I like love what she wants to do. She's like doing garden consulting where more people are getting into gardening and planting it for like wellness sake. And like there's a need for that. And she didn't just randomly wake up and say, I want to do that. And so sharing more of you as opposed to your product is what sets you apart for sure. And so being really clear on what is your unique point of value, meaning what are your stories, where did you go left when you should have went right? Where are you 2 steps ahead of your ideal client? It does not require you to be at the end of your journey and you've got it all figured out and your life is perfect now. None of us are there. But where are you just 2 steps ahead? Where were you 2 steps ago that you can now reach back and help someone else make those 2 steps? And so I think everyone can recognize that we all got a 2 steps in something, like, right? We've all overcome things. We've all learned things. We've all evolved in certain areas. So a lot of people don't get started because they have this fear of they're not at the end of their journey. And I'm very big on your goal is not to, especially if you're creating a course or something that's kind of teaching someone, you're not taking someone from point A to point Z. It's literally point A to point B. So where are you just 2 steps ahead of where you were probably 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, in whatever area of expertise that you're bringing forth, whatever area of personal development that you're bringing forth. So instead of focusing on, oh, well, she's got, 10,000 followers, or she's a 6-figure coach and I'm not, I've only made, people will say, well, I've only made like 30,000 in my business. And I'm like, do you know how people would kill to have made 30,000 in their business? Like you can help all those people make their first 30K. So why are you focusing on what you haven't done when you've already done so much? And so whatever that is for you, whether it's your skill set or something that you've kind of overcome, you've changed in your life, there's some area that you have 2 steps of value to give back to someone else to get them started on their own journey.
No, I'm just being conscious of time. I think, yeah.
That you do not need more strategy. strategy, and I forget who said this, so I'm paraphrasing the quote, but strategy is literally just continued habits. And so this idea that there's this perfect strategy or magic ball that's going to be like, this is the thing that's going to make my business explode, doesn't exist. It is literally taking consistent action and making a decision. There is no difference between someone who has quote unquote success in some area and someone doesn't, other than one person made a decision and the other person was dipping their toe in the water. A decision means you've cut off other options. There is no plan B. There is no, this isn't going to work. It's, I'm going to figure it out, whatever it takes. And so really just making that decision, taking continuous, bold, messy action and looking at the data.
I love it. Bold, messy actions.
Yeah, I am at the Bravo Life on Instagram. I would love to say hello. Like I said, I DM everyone that follows me, so don't be surprised if I send you a voice note. And also my program is claritytolaunch.com, where you can learn more about that. Awesome. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate you. And hopefully one day we'll be able to visit you in France and have some croissants.
Yes.
Together. That's a wrap on another episode of the Course Creation Podcast. Thank you for tuning in and being a champion of ours. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit subscribe and find us on Apple Podcasts to leave us a review. We really want to hear from you. And we're going to be digging through reviews for our next guest to feature. So if you're interested in being a guest, then you know what to do. Also, join our private Facebook community called the Course Creation Crew to connect with other course creators. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at coursecreation.com. That is all. We appreciate you all so much and look forward to having you here next time.